Control your dogs. Justice Minister decries frequency of dog attacks, urges owners to get it together. Good evening and welcome to this Boxing Day edition of Primetime News on air and online at onespotmedia.com. I'm Vashan Brown. Also this evening, suspects in Effortville murders in police custody and local COVID-19 cases increase by 87. There's also sports and weather in this newscast, so please stay with us. The details right after this break.
Your family plus Flow Internet equals a family that chats, streams, works, studies.
A special welcome to those watching on onespotmedia.com. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck is reacting to news of the latest dog attack of a young boy in Mannings Hill, St. Andrew on Christmas Eve. The incident took place weeks after 5-year-old Michael Allen was mauled by dogs in St. Deca, St. Anne. Sashali Hamilton reports.
This 5-year-old boy is now in hospital, nursing dog bites to his face, back, arms and legs after a German Shepherd owned by a relative broke its chain and attacked him. The boy's grandfather, who tried to help, was also bitten. While speaking with our news center, Justice Minister Delroy Chuck expressed disappointment in the frequency of dog attacks.
I am extremely disappointed that in spite of the wide publicity given to the dangers and actual attacks by dogs and children and adults, that dog owners are still being negligent and insufficiently controlling their dogs. I sympathize with the young 5-year-old child and the family. I hope he will recover fully.
Earlier this month, the Dogs Liability for Attacks Act was passed by both houses of Parliament. The bill allows for criminal liability to persons whose dogs attack or injure individuals because of negligence. The Justice Minister is again urging dog owners to be more careful in securing their animals.
Before the Dogs Liability for Attacks come into operation, please secure your dogs in their private space. It is absolutely important because although we love dogs, they pose a clear and present danger to strangers who may well be innocent passersby, and also the children who really are innocent and are not aware of the dangers that these dogs pose.
Sashali Hamilton, TVJ News.
The 6 men who were listed as persons of interest in the recent spate of killings in Effortville, Clarendon, are now in police custody. Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of Area 3, Michael Smith, told our news center today that investigations are ongoing to determine whether the men were involved in the murders. The curfew that was extended on Thursday ended at 6 this evening. Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang last Friday announced a 96-hour curfew for central Clarendon, including Effortville, where 5 residents were killed within 48 hours. Investigators said the attacks were linked to a dispute over a missing motorcycle. And 3 persons were shot in separate incidents across the country on Christmas Day. In Clarendon, a 23-year-old man identified as Nickel Francis was shot and killed in Hayfield in Racecourse. The man was shot while he was playing video games at a shop. No motive has been established for the killing. And a 16-year-old boy has been hospitalized with gunshot wounds after gunmen opened fire on a group of persons during Christmas Day celebrations in Seaview Gardens, St. Andrew. About 6 last evening, the 16-year-old was among several persons gathered in the community when several armed men opened fire on them. More than 20 spent shells were found on the scene. And a man was fatally shot during a reported gun battle between the police and armed men in St. Thomas last night. A firearm was seized. The police say they accosted 4 men on motorcycles at a bus stop at the intersection of the Trinityville and the Georgia main roads in St. Thomas. This led to a gun battle. During the exchange, one of the suspects was shot and a semi-automatic pistol seized. He was later pronounced dead at hospital. The other men escaped. Several persons are now facing uncertain futures after their homes were destroyed by fire in Clarendon Thursday morning. Investigations are ongoing into the cause of the blaze. We have more in this report.
Vincent Williams and his family had one of the worst Christmases imaginable. Their houses in Osborne Store, Clarendon, were completely gutted by fire around 2 a.m. Thursday morning. Mr. Williams said the fire started at his niece's house, which is adjacent to his. They tried to put out the blaze. However, it spread quickly through the 2 wooden structures.
When the fire truck come late, it was burned down and the apartment and my one catch a fire. So in the same room was catch a fire. We not see him nothing, daddy. Nothing we not see him. Me, no clothes, nothing. Eh? Grieve me, daddy, me I tell you, grieve me. Cry, man, me no sleep. If you have a doctor, whole time you see them, me leak out. So you don't give me injection and give me pressure pill.
An official estimate of the damage was not available, but the occupants say they lost expensive appliances, furniture, cash and documents. Members of the political directorate who were on the scene provided the victims with food supplies, but they say more help will be needed from the state.
And for any family to get a Christmas gift like this, it is really heartbreaking, and I believe it is one of the most destructive things can happen to a family anywhere in Jamaica or anywhere in the world. The fact of the matter is that this family is a large family that is living here. This fire has contributed to about 15 or so persons being out of a home and out of everything for their Christmas.
The police and the fire department are still investigating the cause of the fire, but even as they do that, Councillor for the York Division, Opel Purcell, is suspicious about the incident based on recent developments in the community and around the family.
Well, we leave that to the police to do their investigation, as we have persons in the police force that are much capable of dealing with situations like this. I believe that we ought to implore on citizens, if you have something that you cannot manage or deal with, when you have something with one another, please go to the police and ask the police to deal with the matter, because that is where you will get the law take its course.
Sasha Lee Hamilton, TVJ News.
Jamaica confirmed 87 new cases of COVID-19 on Friday, pushing the tally to 12,684. Their ages range from 74 days to 84 years. The cases were recorded in all parishes except Hanover. The country's death toll remains at 294. However, the health ministry says 2 deaths are under investigation. 87 people are hospitalized with the virus. 9 are critically ill. Please stay with us. The Primetime News package continues right after this break.
Your family plus Flow Internet equals
some vendors and small business operators on how the restrictions impacted commerce during the usually busy Christmas Eve.
Grand Market in Mapen, Clarendon, the COVID-19 edition. But what was different? For starters, many vendors and shoppers wore masks. We, however, observed large crowds and very little effort to social distance. Some shoppers said it was hard to tell we are in a pandemic.
Grand Market is the same. It's the same. Corona does not change Grand Market.
Shopping came with a 10 p.m. cutoff on Christmas Eve, as stipulated by the curfew orders. Vendors and small business people had mixed experiences about how sales went.
You know, but it's not like before. You understand me? But we still not complain because, you understand me, it could have been better. You understand me? But seeing the situation, we have to work with it. You understand me? And we still have to observe the protocol. See me.
But what they're buying is mostly food. We're not selling anything. Just food alone.
We're not really find what if people come out. You know, most of them come find a week and go on back.
But how were things from a security perspective? Operations Commander for the Clarendon Police, Superintendent Chris Phillips, said he was not comfortable with the number of children he saw on the streets of Maypen on Grand Market night in the height of the pandemic.
We had concerns about the crowd. It wasn't the usual crowd that we used to. But of course, persons were out still being very defiant, you know, not wearing a mask. A lot of children were out, very exposed.
Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
And in anticipation of breaches of the nightly curfew, the police in St. Anne, including the commissioner himself, were out on Christmas Eve early to enforce the measures.
Some argue that Brownstown in St. Anne usually has the largest holiday shopping crowds in the island. True or not, the police were taking no chances with possible curfew breaches, with Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson visiting the parish on Christmas Eve.
Here in Brownstown, it gets quite congested by the market, but the police are up there managing it and will be managing it for the rest of the evening into the night.
The St. Anne police say shoppers were compliant. However, although they also complied, vendors believe the curfew time is too early.
Well, I'm not telling no lie now. You could have get Wi-Fi even one in click more, half more. But I'm grateful for the day still. The day nice still. I like how people obey the rule and wear the mask and everything. You know? Because it could have worse.
Them don't know how much money you make, them don't know if you have enough money to pay for the same product where you get. Them don't know if you trust it, them don't know if you buy it. And the police them come and them and tell you, say we have to pack up right now with which product on the grill. You can see, as you can see the product there. Product is on the grill. So you call it a loss for we, you know.
There were no reports of arrests linked to protocol breaches. General Anderson credits the compliance and general crime control in the parish to a 3-tier focus plan,
which is the obviously violence reduction part of it, ensuring that we create a safe space from robberies and that sort of thing so that people can go about their commercial activities in peace, and also the traffic management.
The commissioner has been on a week-long tour of divisions across the island, assessing holiday preparations and other crime-fighting measures.
Now, many Jamaicans celebrated Christmas Day drinking sorrel, which is a big part of the tradition. But do you know what goes into preparing sorrel? Well, Giovanni Dennis tells us more in this report.
Planting, growing and reaping sorrel, Beryl MacDonald knows it all, especially for Christmas. After identifying and picking fit sorrel and removing seeds, the first step is boiling crushed ginger. The ginger adds flavor.
You taste it more in the sorrel when it beats.
After boiling the ginger, the sorrel is added.
Then you turn off the stove and make it stay there till it cool. If you want to leave it for overnight, you can do that.
Leaving it overnight makes the sorrel marinate better, but a few hours can also work. After straining, sugar and in many instances spirit is added. Some families add pimento seeds to give it an extra flavor. But Jamaican sorrel is more than just your average Christmas drink. According to the Scientific Research Council, sorrel contains a wide range of essential vitamins and minerals. Research at Jamaica's Northern Caribbean University also reveals that sorrel could kill certain types of cancer cells. Giovanni Dennis, TVJ News.
And please stay with us. International stories when we return.
Primetime News brought to you by
New normal, new Christmas, same delicious taste. KFC.
When you use your Sagicor Bank MasterCard credit card to buy something for someone else, you'll earn rewards to get a little something for yourself too. The time by Sagicor Bank is...
Coming up in Saturday's Sports Special, anticlimactic end to local jockeys championship, and a broken relationship remains between Weeper and some players 6 years after controversial tour of India.
Good evening, I'm Spencer Darlington. We've got the details on those and much more coming up after the break.
Sports headlines
is brought to you by Visa Infinite Business Credit Card from JN Bank. It's not just business as usual when you have a card as forward-thinking as your business.
Great Moments in Sports is brought to you by...
Just buy any 5 Lasco products. Scan the code or visit lascowish.com. Join Lasco Wish Chat, send a picture
And welcome back to Saturday's Sports Special. Now, there was an anticlimax to the penultimate day of racing at Caymanas Park on Saturday, as both leading riders, Anthony Thomas and Dane Nelson, were stood down for the weekend of racing. Thomas is said to be suffering from food poisoning, while it's understood that Nelson is nursing a groin injury, which he sustained from a fall on Wednesday's program. Denise Walters reports.
Three-time former champion Dane Nelson and the 2018 champion Anthony Thomas had it all to fight for, heading into the final day of racing, locked on 84 wins each atop the jockeys' standings. But punters were left disappointed as both jockeys pulled from Saturday's program. Thomas will also be down for Sunday's final day, while it's not yet known if Nelson will mount. If both remain tied after tomorrow, it will be the second time the title is shared in the 61-year history of Caymanas Park. Richard Pass, 50 years ago in 1970, tied with Panamanian Jose Bravo on 53 wins after riding Wally Gold to victory on the final day. Meanwhile, potential candidate for Horse of the Year, Nipster, who is the highest earning horse for 2020, left the field in his wake after coming into the lane in the future Ian Levy Cup, going 8.5 furlongs.
Against it and beginning to fade. Marquesas has made progress, but they're coming into the lane. Catch Mahogany if you can in the Ian Levy Cup. Jamai Roger is over against the rail, and Nipster now begins to come with his usual late dash, and Nipster now snatches the lead from Mahogany. Can he fight back? No. Nipster begins to power on. The afterburners are on, and Nipster now beginning to run right away from them inside the final 16. It is Nipster and Robert Hallideen. He's left them all for dead and wins the Ian Levy Cup by 6 or more over Sentient. Tuna Ciliata flying home in a photo with Mahogany and Jamai Raja.
The St. Ledger winner won by 7 lengths, clocking an impressive 1 minute 33 and a 3.
But Nipster just seems to get from strength to strength. Can't take away nothing from Nipster. He's just been a superior horse this year to all the horses. He's beaten everybody this year. He's unfortunate with the derby, but that's life, you know. That's just one of those things that happen.
In the meantime, the fast finishing Salvation, one of 2 winners for Philip Fiani, landed the restricted allowance 2 event, going 5 furlongs round.
And it's a double jeopardy and executive chief matching strides. Here now is Salvation, asked to reel them in as they run past the furlong pole. Executive chief being grabbed now by Salvation, and Salvation hanging a bit to the right but straightens out now. Inside the final 16, it is Salvation and Yuval Pinnock bouncing away from them to win by 3 or more over Executive Chief. A photo between Big Daddy Generational. Double jeopardy is 5th.
The Grey Filly won in 59 and 4/5 by 3 lengths. Both Anthony Nunes and Wayne DaCosta were winless on the day. I am Denise Walters reporting from Caymanas Park for TVJ Sports.
Meanwhile, the curtain will come down on the 2020 local racing calendar with a 9-race card on Sunday to be highlighted by 2 trophy races with total purse money of $6.5 million. Now there will be replacement riders for Dane Nelson and Anthony Thomas aboard the 2 top contenders, or 2 of the top contenders in the main event. The third and final leg of the SVL 2-year-old Triple Series, the Jamaica 2-year-old Stakes over a mile, takes center stage with a field of 10 to face the starter in the $4 million event at 4:10 p.m. The Anthony Nunes conditioned Further and Beyond, who won the second leg over 7 furlongs on November 29, has been kept busy at exercise and should enjoy the extra furlong on Sunday. However, a replacement rider will have to be sought, given that joint leader Dane Nelson will also be out of action on Sunday. TVJ Sports understands that Nunes will choose either Ian Spence, Orlando Foster or Amit Robles to replace Nelson on the 2-year-old Chestnut Colt. And with the other joint leading rider, Anthony Thomas, also out of action this weekend, it's understood that he will be replaced by Javanil Patterson aboard Billy Wiz, one of 3 runners from the stables of 18-time former champion trainer Wayne DaCosta in the event. DaCosta's Den Street, who captured the first leg of the series on November 1, is the 3-1 second choice in the overnight odds. There's also good support for another Nunes charge, Calculus, with Omar Walker in the saddle, and the Ian Prasad trained She's a Wonder, the mount of Ryan Lewis. Meanwhile, the exciting American-bred Sparkle Diamond is the 5-2 anti-post favorite for the supporting feature. The inaugural running of the $2 million Chris Armand Sprint, a graded stakes contest for 3-year-olds and up over 5.5 furlongs. The lineup will also have two-time Caribbean Sprint champion Chase the Great and Patriarch among the other fancied runners. First post for the 11-race card is 11 a.m. Karting fans will have to wait much longer to see their sport back on the island, as the proposed Jamaica Karting Association meet, which was set for Sunday, has been postponed. There has been no motorsport event on the island since March of this year, with the COVID-19 pandemic also cancelling Rally Jamaica for the first time in its history. President of Jamaica Karting Association, Roger Mezer, sought to explain the reason behind the change in fortunes.
The Jamaica Karting Association had received verbal approval for 250 persons spread over our 13 acres, where we had divided the area into groups of families for the children that participate with us. However, and I believe because of the recent upsurge in incoming COVID cases, we were advised by the Ministry of Health that all sporting events has to be reapplied through Dr. Tufton's office directly.
Over 24 drivers, pit crew and support staff were expected at the event, with races set to take place in the Micromax 50cc, the Minimax, the Junior and the Super Rotax series. However, the country recorded 87 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours, bringing the total to 12,684 on the island. But Mezer is hopeful for a better outcome in the new year.
The land, so to speak, we absolutely have complied and will be submitting our application to the Ministry of Health, directly to the Minister's office, for approval for our season coming in 2021. And we look forward to, resuming our activities next year.
Now, the infamous decision by the West Indies to walk off a tour of India 6 years ago continues to affect the relationship between the West Indies Players Association, WIPA, and some players, according to Secretary Wayne Lewis. Here's more from Jordan Fort.
When Dwayne Bravo decided to lead the Caribbean side to a walk-off of the Tour of India in 2014, it drew the ire of regional fans and cost the board millions in losses. It also severed the relationship of some of the players with WIPA for good. And Secretary Wayne Lewis says the association is yet to hash out those issues with the players involved in that decision who are still active.
Hopefully, at some stage we'll have a sit-down where we can go through it to look at exactly what transpired, because there are a lot of uncertainties as to exactly what happened during that tour. We have never had that level of discussion with them to, hear our side of it. And we're hoping to do that eventually, to set the record straight on some of the things that have been out there that have been said in the public domain as it relates to that.
In the meantime, Lewis says there has been an improvement in the trust factor between WIPA and the CWI, which has continued under the leadership of Ricky Skerritt. Skerritt assured recently that Jamaican all-rounder Andre Russell won't be victimised for his decision to turn down the tour of New Zealand to play in the Lanka Premier League. And Lewis says WIPA has no reason not to believe him.
The trust factor has increased exponentially with Cricket West Indies and WIPA. So if we have our discussions and they give us their words that a player will not be victimised for pulling out of a tour, then we take them at their word, and so far so good.
And Lewis says players may still see a reduction in earnings next year, despite their salaries returning to 100% for 2021. CWI recently announced that all players will return to full salary, having seen a 50% cut in July, but with a proposed reduction in the number of matches in the regional 4-day competition, players could have fewer opportunities to rake in match fees.
Absolutely, it affects everybody. It's not only the players themselves, administrators, WIPA, based on our MOU, we get some, most of our remuneration comes through Cricket West Indies. That has been cut in half as well. So therefore, we understand totally. It could be worse. Australia, their cut was 80%. I would try to think Australia would have a lot more money than Cricket West Indies, and their cut is 80%, ours is 50%. So it's better to have something than nothing.
The regional 50-over competition seems set to mark the return of regional cricket, with February being the proposed start for that competition next year. Jordan Fort, TVJ Sports.
Thank you, Jordan. Windward Islands cricketer Tyrone Theophile is now in hospital following a motorcycle crash on Christmas Day in his home country of Dominica. According to Dominican publication Nature Isle News, Theophile was in the intensive care unit and was to have been flown to Martinique at some point on Saturday. Reports are that he received serious head injuries as a result of the incident. Theophile, who captained the Windward Islands Volcanoes team for a few seasons at the regional level, has played a total of 68 first-class matches and has scored 3,055 runs at an average of 25.88. The top scorer, top-order batsman, has also taken 18 wickets at 34 runs apiece with his off-spin bowling. India were 57 for 1 at sports time in the opening session on day 2 of their second test match against Australia in Melbourne. Now, yesterday, the Indians dismissed the Aussies for 195, with Jasprit Bumrah ending with 4 for 56 and Ravi Ashwin picking up 3 for 35. Marnus Labuschagne top scored with 48, while Travis Head made 38 and Matthew Wade 30 after the Australians elected to bat. Shubman Gill 28 and Cheteshwar Pujara 7 will resume for India today. Australia lead the 4-match series 1-0. And half centuries from Dinesh Chandimal and Dhananjaya De Silva have put Sri Lanka in command of their first test against South Africa at Centurion, having closed day 1 on 340 for 6. Wicketkeeper batsman Niroshan Dikwela also made a significant contribution, having fallen 1 run short of a half-century. Wayan Mulder has been the pick of the South African bowlers so far, with 3 for 68, with a wicket each for Anrik Nortje, Luto Simpamla and Lungi Ngidi. Now, the first tennis Grand Slam tournament of the year, the Australian Open, will be played in February and not January as usual. A 50% crowd capacity is also expected, while more than 1,000 international players and officials will be chartered into the country.
It was almost at breaking point, but now it's game on. 3 weeks later than originally planned, the Australian Open will hit Melbourne Park between February 8 and 21.
To this point, we have a commitment from every single player in the world to be in Australia.
That's 1,100 internationals who will be chartered by Tennis Australia. Arriving from January 15, they'll serve 2 weeks quarantine in a biosecure bubble. Players and their limited support staff will stay at designated hotels and be shuttled between there and Melbourne Park to practice and exercise for up to 5 hours a day. Every person will be tested twice before landing in Australia and a minimum of 5 times during their quarantine period.
If there's any breaching of those conditions, that player will be immediately removed from our country and as well as be fined.
Thousands of Aussies are still stranded overseas because of strict arrival caps, but the Open has an exemption. Generating close to $400 million a year, 85% of the Open spectators are Australian, and this Grand Slam will be the first since the pandemic to have a crowd. Tickets go on sale this Wednesday.
Alrighty, let's take another break. When we come back, we'll have the recap for Saturday's Sports Special. There will be a tie for the local Jockeys Championship for the first time in 50 years at Caymanas Park, as joint leaders Dane Nelson and Anthony Thomas have both been ruled out of action this weekend. Thomas because of food poisoning and Nelson with a groin injury. The two have each ridden 84 winners for the season. And the now infamous decision by the West Indies to walk off a tour of India 6 years ago continues to affect the relationship between the West Indies Players Association, WIPA, and some players, according to Secretary Wayne Lewis. That's it then for Saturday's Sports Special. Thanks so much for watching, and stand by now. The weather report and forecast will be coming up next with Romaine. Pleasant viewing.
satellite imagery across the Caribbean, we'll notice the continued clouds are still just west of the island and across western sections of the island. We still have that cold front moving across the island. We expect it to be east of us tonight going into tomorrow. Patches of low-level clouds, showers and thunderstorms can be observed in the image, especially along the southern portion of the axis. We're expecting the clouds and shower and thunderstorm activity to begin affecting sections of eastern parishes over the next couple of days towards the central Caribbean, trough systems south of Hispaniola, areas of clouds, isolated showers there, and further towards the east we're seeing generally fair skies. It's the high pressure that's dominating across that general area. Now, cloudy conditions are expected across the island tonight. We're expecting temperatures to drop to about 22 degrees Celsius for Kingston and Montego Bay. We're expecting morning showers mainly across northern sections of the island, spreading further towards southern sections of the island in the afternoon. High temperatures should reach about 29 degrees Celsius for both Kingston as well as Montego Bay. Now, the breakdown has some shower activity in the afternoon for Kingston, also for Spanish Town, as well as Maypen and Mandeville tomorrow. Expect showers also for Santa Cruz and Black River in the afternoon. It's cloudy to mostly cloudy in Savannah, Lamar and the Grill, with showers for much of the day in Port Antonio and Port Maria. The winds are strong across sections of the southwest, as well as the northeast, as well as sections of the north. We're expecting shower activity for Ocho Rios, St. Ansby and Brownstown, with cloudy skies for Falmouth, Montego Bay and Lucy. Now, cloudy conditions with cool weather is expected on Monday. We're expecting some shower activity as well. The winds are strong on Monday and Tuesday. Showers are likely in the afternoon on Wednesday, and it's partly cloudy for much of the area on Thursday. We're keeping the small craft warning in effect for inshore areas of the north coast tomorrow. The winds are staying out of the north tonight as well as tomorrow, but tomorrow's winds reach 25 knots and lift waves to 2.5 meters. Tonight on the south coast, we're expecting northerlies at 10 knots, but tomorrow the winds turn northeasterly, reaching 20 knots and lifting waves to 2 meters. We also have that small craft warning staying in effect for offshore areas. Winds are northerly at 20 to 25 knots, but we could see some gusts to 35 knots, so wave heights are expected to be about 3 meters. And in the offshore outlook on Monday, expect northeasterlies at 15 knots also on Tuesday, but on Wednesday the winds are easterly, getting up to 20 knots. That's where we leave you this evening with the weather report and forecast. Stay tuned. We have a news recap after the break.